students that have put their names in the chat and their school affiliation. If you're just joining us now, if you could do that, that would be great. All right, I'll get started. So my name is Rory Flynn. I'm the Assistant Dean of Graduate Studies at WPI. I'm joined today by a few of my colleagues who are also part of the Central Mass Aspire Regional Collaborative, or Aspire RC as it's abbreviated. I'll give them each a second to introduce themselves. So I saw Kathy was on the chat. Kathy, do you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. I'm Kathy Chen, Executive Director of the STEM Education Center at WPI.
Thank you. How about Adrian?
Hello, I'm Adrian Linnell. I am responsible for STEM initiatives at Quinsigamond Community College.
Excellent, thanks. I see Darren's with us.
Hi, I'm Darren Barnard. I'm the director of the STEM Center at Worcester State and a biology professor there.
Excellent, thank you. And Ellen, are you there?
Yes, I am Ellen Eck, Assistant Dean of Graduate Studies for Arts and Sciences at Clark University.
Excellent, thank you. And I didn't yet see if Doug is here. Doug? No? Yes, no? I don't think so. Okay, that's all right. All right. So just to tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about today, we're going to first give you just a little bit of an overview of what NSF Aspire is, and tell you a little bit about their goals and a little bit of an overview of the Central Mass Aspire Regional Collaborative. You're going to hear a little bit about Quinsigamond Community College, or QCC. You'll hear from one of our QCC faculty partners that's going to share her perspective of what it's like teaching at a community college, in particular QCC, and a little bit about her career background. And then we'll go into some details specifically about the fellowship program that is probably of interest to many of you. We'll go over some details and some aspects of the application. And then we'll just open it up for some questions and answers, and hopefully we can address any questions you have. And hopefully the session today will interest many of you to apply for our fellowship program. All right, so with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kathy. And Kathy, just tell me whenever you want me to change slides for you.
Okay, sure. So Aspire, the program that we have for Central Massachusetts is actually part of a much bigger initiative funded by the National Science Foundation, NSF. And it's this program called Aspire, and Aspire is doing a lot all over the country. So there's different models that they're using. So you can see on the slide, there's like 4 main areas, and we are the regional change. We're like a sub-award, and the idea behind Aspire is to develop inclusive and diverse STEM faculty. So next slide. So with this map, you can see that there are many different universities and colleges that are engaged in Aspire. So we are part of a much bigger initiative. And so we are super excited that we were chosen to be a part of this, and we're launching. So next. So for Central Massachusetts, we have many different colleges and university in our area, Central Mass. A lot of it's concentrated in Worcester, and so that's kind of how we're starting out. So WPI, Clark, Worcester State, and Quinsigamond. So this initiative for developing inclusive and diverse STEM faculty is targeted for the community colleges, the 2-year, which has all sorts of advantages, which you're going to hear about. But in terms of the training, it works for K-12 and the 4-year institutions also. So we've kind of this group, that the team that we have, we kind of think about the whole spectrum of education. And so this program is allowing us to like really focus on the 2 years. So thanks.
Now, Adrian.
Hi, so this is Quinsigamond Community College, and extra credit to anybody who knows what Quinsigamond actually means. We'll take just 5 or 10 seconds, see if anybody has a guess. No, nobody's jumping in. So Quinsigamond in Native American Algonquin language is loosely translated as the pickerel or long-nose fishing place. So it really refers to the lake and the area surrounding the lake where pickerel, which is a freshwater fish, was native and supported the Algonquin people in central Mass. So it's a tough name to get used to rolling off your tongue, which is why we affectionately refer to it as QCC for Quinsigamond Community College. But now you've had your trivia lesson for the day. So Rory, you can advance the slide. This is our library, or our Harrington Learning Center was on that picture. So a few things about QCC. So there are actually 15 community colleges in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we're one of 15. We're one of the larger community colleges. We have, well, post-COVID, there are fewer students, as there are everywhere, but we average between 7,000 and 9,000 students a year. More than half of those students are part-time. In theory, the 15 community colleges kind of carve up the state in terms of towns and cities they support, but anybody can go anywhere. So it's not geographically limited, but we view ourselves as serving a region that's roughly comprised of 41 cities and towns. The student population is very diverse, and Anita Sirocco will be talking more about this, and she actually teaches our students, but they're non-traditional. So we have students who are in high school, dual enrolled, either through early college or other dual enrollment options. So they're ranging from 15 to 80 plus. We have people who take enrichment courses, adults who are career shifters who come back to shift their knowledge center for a different kind of a job or to advance in a career. Many of our students are not native English speakers. They are fairly recent immigrants who are learning English or come with limited English. The city of Worcester has certainly a huge immigrant population. A lot of our students are disadvantaged, lower income, first in their family to attend college. And we do have some traditional high school graduates who are coming into college, and they're choosing community college for many reasons, including cost, because it is one of the best deals around to start at a community college and save on tuition. So we have a varied population of students, and we need to be able to help each of them to acquire knowledge. So that makes for an interesting job, which, as I mentioned, Anita Sirocco will talk about. But we do have our main campus, which is at 670 West Boylston Street, very close to WPI, actually, right off of I-90 and Route 12. We have a satellite campus in Southbridge. We actually recently relocated it to be within the Southbridge Middle School / High School complex. So we are convenient for students who are doing dual enrollment or for adults in the area of Southbridge. Some of our programs are resident in high schools. We have some of our career and technical ed is actually at the Senior Center in Worcester and at Burncoat High School and at Algonquin Regional Technical High School and Worcester Technical High School. So different programs in different locations, but our main satellite is Southbridge, and our main campus is very close to WPI. We offer courses during the day, the night, as you see, Rory, it's fun that you change the slide. The idea is that we offer lots of different options for lots of different people. And here's what it's all about. It's about accessibility. All are welcome in our process. If you can earn college credits as a high school student, you can work towards a college degree. The application is easy. There's no testing other than potentially for placement in math or English. There's no essays, no letter of recommendation. So it's very open enrollment. Think of it as an open admission policy. And, you know, like everybody, we've got online, we've got hybrid or what we call remote. And we're back to in-person learning, which has been awesome. And as I mentioned, more than half of our students are part-time students. So while you think of a community college as being a 2-year degree, because it's designed on the traditional thinking about roughly 15 credits a semester, 4 semesters, 60 credits, and some of our programs are a little more than 60 credits. We have certificates programs that are less than 60 credits. But we have students who may take 1 or 2 classes a semester, and at that rate, it may take them years to complete. But, you know, it's fitting it into their lives. Some are parents, some are working, people have responsibilities. So it is definitely not, the majority of our people are not doing a traditional semester, you know, 4 semesters stacking into a 60 credit associate degree. Change the slide. So there's a picture of this building behind me, and it's what we call our Quest building, and it stands for Quinsigamond Engineering, Science, and Technology Center. Recently opened 2016, and it really has state-of-the-art equipment. So we are thrilled that we are able to offer students access to high-tech equipment that is used in the industries that they would be entering. And we also have a Fab Lab makerspace, and we were the first community college to offer that. So people can come in and use our 3D printers or laser cutters, silk screeners. It's all computer driven, so it's all technology based, and that's what we're offering the students, is the idea that learn to use the technology, create something fun. And a lot of our electronics engineering, regular engineering, and advanced manufacturing courses, actually the students will do projects in our Fab Lab. And we can move the slide. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but I wanted you to be able to see what kinds of classes would be taught in STEM at a community college. So here's an example of the range of biology, chemistry, environmental sciences, physics, et cetera, that you could be teaching at a community college. And if you're thinking about it, we are really giving students their first 2 years of an traditional 4-year education for transfer programs. So it's more of, we have more classes of 100 and 200 level courses, and mostly 100, fewer students progress into 200. But we are very proud of the fact that our curriculum stands up and transfers. We have articulation agreements with not just the Massachusetts state colleges, with everything being aligned, but we have articulations with WPI, for example, where students have a certain GPA and complete the courses in the course map. They are basically guaranteed entry into WPI. And we have similar articulation agreements with other higher education institutions. So sometimes students will come to us in the summer and say, oh, I think I'll take organic chem. You know, it'll probably be easier if I take it at a community college. Well, it's the same curriculum and it's not easier. It may be easier in that it's the only class you're taking that summer and you will find a lot of supports. But our curriculum is as rigorous as anybody else's. It has to be because it needs to be able to transfer and be accepted into other institutions. So if you're teaching here, you're teaching a range of people with different motivations, of different backgrounds, not unlike other places, but you're doing first and second year level courses. So with that, we can move on, and I will introduce to you Professor Anita Sirocco, who is going to speak next. And you can see on this slide her background. She is all WPI educated. She's an accomplished civil engineer. She transitioned into teaching through being a visiting scholar at Mass Academy. And she teaches physics, engineering, graphics, environmental sciences. And she's actually the department coordinator for the environmental sciences program at Quinn 6. So I'm very pleased to turn the microphone over to Professor Anita Sirocco.
Thanks for the introduction, Adrienne. So yes, Adrienne, you know, kind of gave you my background. I am all WPI, so proud graduate, class of 2004 in civil and environmental engineering. After I got my bachelor's, I was in the field for about 3 years. So I was working as a consulting engineer for Tata and Howard Incorporated, which is an environmental engineering company. I specifically did water and wastewater treatment and designing water mains and that sort of stuff. After a few years there, I decided I wanted to leave and get my master's degree. So I did come back to WPI full-time and got my master's degree in environmental engineering. While I was a graduate student, I was there on a teaching assistantship. So I was a TA for a number of, you know, the civil engineering courses like water treatment and environmental engineering lab with Professor Plummer, Professor Bergendahl. I don't know if some of you know them. And then after I left with my master's degree, my hope was to get into teaching, but, you know, you go where there's jobs. I had no teaching experience other than being a TA, and all I had was engineering experience. And, you know, I wanted to pay my bills. So I went back into industry and I worked at AECOM, which is, you know, huge engineering company. And I was there for about a year and a half doing similar stuff. I was doing stormwater design, but still, you know, in the environmental engineering industry. I was there for that year and a half, right when the economy was about to collapse, right? Like it was around that 2009, 2010, like things were not good. It was, yeah, I think it was 2009. So I could see the writing on the wall that probably my position was going to be eliminated in all likelihood. And so I thought, well, you know, this is my chance to make a change. I got to do something drastic. And so I did leave my job without a full plan. But again, I knew my job was on the chopping block anyway, just because I had heard rumors that they were going to be eliminating that position. And it turns out they did do that a few weeks later. So I probably should have held off because then I could have collected some unemployment, but I didn't. And as luck would have it, at that point, Mass Academy wasn't even sure if they were going to be surviving because of funding issues from the state. Last minute, they found out they got the funding and they were going to be surviving, and they have a position called a visiting scholar, which I believe is funded through NSF. And the idea is to recruit people like myself who are from industry who want to go out into the Massachusetts public teaching system, and they train you to be an educator. So I saw the ad, and this is kind of old school. I saw it in the paper, and I called them up, and they called me back right away. And I had the interview with with Bob, who was running it over there. I don't think he's running it anymore. I believe he's retired. But he saw me right away, and he's like, he's like, I think you were meant to do this. I've been doing this for so many years, and this is weird that I'm saying this to you, but I think you were meant to be an educator. And being at Mass Academy was probably one of the best experiences of my life, because I didn't know how to transition into teaching. I had this passion, I had this interest, and I was a TA, but I didn't have any real experience. And so this was like boot camp for teaching over at Mass Academy. So in the beginning of the year, I spent shadowing a math teacher and a physics teacher. And Mass Academy, of course, is 11th and 12th grade. It's a special school where the students are, of course, extremely bright. They're affiliated with WPI. They do their junior year there, and their senior year, they take classes at WPI. So I was shadowing the math and physics teacher for that first half. And then the second half of the year, they really bumped it up. So number one, I got to teach a elective. So I actually taught AutoCAD to the students. And then I also got to do lectures for physics and math with those teachers. And during that time, the actual full-time teachers at Mass Academy, they would come into my class and they would just cut me up. They would, sit there and be like, your voice, I would have one person monitoring how loud my voice was, one person counting the number of ums I say, my body language, my handwriting on the board, how I was moving around the classroom, interacting with the students. And so I just got so many tips on how to do that. The last part of the year too, they had a partnership with public high schools. And so they had me go to Air Public High School and just shadow a teacher there in physics and see what it was like in the Massachusetts public school system. And towards the end of my tenure as visiting scholar, Quinsigamond posted a job opening for environmental science faculty. And I was like, okay, well, this is it. I'm environmental engineering. This is environmental science, but I can do this. And Mass Academy was wonderful. All the faculty members helped prepare me for the interview. They did mock interviews with me on the things to think about and the things to know. And it was very, very helpful. And I was blessed enough to get the job at QCC. So I've been there for 12 years now. I teach predominantly environmental science and the calculus-based physics, which is the physics course that the engineers, pharmacy majors, and computer science majors take. But I do also teach sometimes engineering graphics, thermostatics, stuff in the engineering department. That's one of the things at a community college is that it's the first 2 years of the program. And you end up teaching cross major, right? So my education is in environmental engineering, bachelor's and master's, but I do teach the physics and I do teach environmental science as well. And the students are wonderful. I have had such a blessed 12 years to get to know all the different types of students in my class. As Adrian mentioned, it's a mixed bag. I have some students that are coming there with like top-notch math skills and ready to go, and I have some people who fell behind for whatever reason in high school and they need some extra help. Class sizes are pretty small, so they get a lot of attention. So for example, you guys are probably have taken physics at a traditional 4-year school. It's done in the auditorium. There's hundreds of people in the class. It's broken down into sections of 25, and then you have lab with the TA. At QCC, the advantage is there's 20 students in my class and I am the professor and the lab professor. So there is no TA. I do the labs, I run the course. So I know them well. I know their names. I know when they miss class. I know their strengths and weaknesses. And so we have a really tight relationship with our students. And all the classes are pretty much capped at a max of around 20 to 24 students. And so, you get a lot of that attention from the professors at QCC. Obviously, from the faculty perspective, it is challenging not having a TA. It is challenging having to run the course and the lab by yourself. I would say the first 2 years that I taught at QCC, I had no life. I'd finish work and then I would be prepping for the next day. The whole weekend was prepping. My husband didn't see me for those first 2 years. It was work, because you have nothing. You're just starting from scratch. And, you know, I have wonderful colleagues that are willing to help, but at the end of the day, when you're teaching your own class, you have to have your own stuff. You need to know, you have to be comfortable with your own materials, right? So it was learning what lab equipment we had, prepping the labs, understanding what works. It's teaching, I think, at any level is a trial and error, right? You try things, they work, you try things, they don't work, you revise. So that's some of the challenges of not having a TA or anything like that. But the upside of that is that I know my students really, really well, and I'm able to help them with math skills and some of the things that they're really kind of lacking in. The other thing I love about it is the diversity of that classroom. I've gotten to know people from, you know, all walks of life, and I can tell you a lot of stigmas associated with community colleges. People look down on community colleges because it's open enrollment, because it's associated with marginalized communities. But the truth is, my students are anything but marginalized. They are powerhouses. They work their butts off for this education. You know, they're working, sometimes their parents. I had a student last semester that was homeless, literally homeless, and was still signing on to the remote physics class at 9 a.m. on the bus on his cell phone. And, you know, when you see dedication to education like that, and you see someone who's working so hard to change their story, that's what we do it for. So, you know, I really do feel blessed every day to know these students. They inspire me. And so I would say it's worth every minute of it to be a part of their story. So I think I'll leave the rest of everything else for questions.
Thank you. Sorry, I was trying to reshare the screen and then unmute myself. So thank you so much, Anita, for sharing your career story and telling us a bit about what it's like teaching at a community college. So now I'm going to pivot just a little bit and talk a little bit about the fellowship program itself. So as was mentioned, we are part of this regional collaborative. So we're in Central Mass. The program would be open to individuals in this general area. And what the program is going to consist of is sort of a two-pronged approach of sort of training and then mentorship. So in the fall, so this next fall, we're going to accept a few fellows into the program. It's going to be a cohort-based experience. So they're going to start the program together. There'll be an orientation in late August. And the fellows will complete a course that I co-run with Caitlin Keller at WPI called Fundamentals of Scientific Teaching and Pedagogy. The course is run every fall. So if you don't or aren't able to participate or not interested in participating in this program this year, this could be something to consider for next year as well. The course is 0 credits, so there's no cost to take the course, and it meets Thursday afternoons at WPI, and there's some possibility for some hybrid or remote participation. There's going to be a range of various teaching workshops and other offerings at all the partner schools. So Clark and Worcester State, WPI, QCC, that students could engage with as well. And then during the fall, we'll have our fellows go to QCC, and there'll be a meet and greet with some of the QCC instructors that have signing on to be mentors for the program. And then in the spring, we're going to match each of these Aspire fellows with a QCC instructor, and they're going to meet with that instructor over the course of the spring semester. They're going to shadow that person's teaching, so sit in on some of their classes and observe their teaching. They're going to meet with the mentor to discuss their own teaching interests and maybe some teaching practices. They're going to maybe talk about their careers and what they're interested in and get some feedback. And then they're also, the goal is for these fellows to do some guest lecturing. meaning, maybe it's teaching about a specific topic within a given class session. It could be taking the whole class session and teaching a lecture. It could be, doing 2 or 3 of those. It depends on the ability of the student, and what interests of the mentor in that, and what might make the most sense. And so the expectation is that the fellows will meet 1 to 2 times per month with the mentor over the spring semester. And there's some opportunity for this to extend into the summer as well. And then we're going to have all the fellows meet up periodically with each other and use that time to reflect on the experience they've had thus far, and maybe share some experiences they've had, doing guest lecturing or observing teaching, or shadowing the QCC instructor. And they'll also be, when they're taking the course in the fall, they'll also be part of a group together and have that sort of cohort experience. Some benefits to doing this program. Well, first, it's free teaching training, right? So you're getting to take a course for free that will help you learn how to teach. The fellows are going to receive a $500 stipend that they'll get in the spring portion of the program, where they're doing the mentored teaching experience. We do have some funding available to support the fellows in their transportation to and from QCC via like Uber and Lyft. You'll be able to get some feedback about your teaching. So in particular, let's say you do a guest lecture and your QCC mentor sits in on the lecture and can take some notes. That can be really invaluable feedback and could potentially lead to a letter of recommendation. If you're interested in a teaching position in academia and community college, four-year college, university, where you're going to have teaching responsibilities, they often want to see a letter of recommendation from someone who can speak about your teaching. And that's something that can be challenging for students to obtain, that kind of letter. And so this might provide a nice opportunity for that. It's also a chance to try out community college teaching to see if this is something that you'd be interested in, either as a career or as part of your career. And then just to get a sense of like, are you interested in teaching overall, right? You'll gain some valuable experience doing the fellowship, and also build a professional network, or start to build a professional network that might help you land a teaching position after the program is over. And our hope is sort of that the fellows that complete the program will seek out teaching opportunities at community colleges, whether it's an adjunct position, during, let's say, their graduate studies or during their postdoc time. It could be full-time teaching positions, would be great. It could be they're going on into industry and they want to do adjuncting on the side and have that sort of fulfill that portion of their interest in terms of teaching. In terms of the timeline for the program itself, there's an application that's now open for students to apply. The application deadline is the 13th of May. So we still have a few more weeks to apply. We'll make selections and we'll choose 5 fellows in this first year to participate in the program. And we're aiming to increase that in future years as well. So we'll notify those selected in early June. And then late August, there'll be an orientation for the fellows. There'll be the teaching course I mentioned that the fellows will participate in from sort of like about end of August through about mid-December. Again, that's Thursdays, WPI in the afternoon. And then January through April, they'll be involved in the mentored teaching experience at QCC. I have a link here to the application itself. And we, of course, will send out the recording of this session and the slides so you can access it that way as well. If you have any questions about the application, you can contact me, and my email is listed on the screen. And just to give you a sense of what the application entails, we'll of course ask for your contact and like school affiliation info, that kind of thing. But we'll also asking you to summarize your educational and professional background, as well as teaching experience you have. We'll ask you to tell us a bit about like courses or just in general disciplines that you might be interested in teaching within. We're going to ask you to describe how the fellowship fits into your current activity, as well as your future career plans, in particular in relation to STEM teaching and higher education. You'll share your thoughts on how teaching at a community college level can be a way to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in STEM, and how you might contribute to this overall, and then some demographic questions as well. So with that, I just wanted to turn it over to our attendees and see if there's specific questions about the program, the application, any questions maybe specifically for Anita or about QCC to Adrian that we could answer for you. And while we're waiting for questions, I just noticed that one of our other teammates, Arnold, is on the session as well. I don't know if Arnold, if you're still there, if you could just say hello and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Hello, everybody. How are we doing? No matter where you Zooming are in the world. My name is Arnold Lane. I use he, him, his pronouns. I am the Director of Multicultural Education and Community Engagement at Worcester Polytechnic Institute. And I'm working with my colleagues across the consortium to support the Aspire program. So happy to be a partner in this. And if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to be here.
Thanks, Arnold. Oh, and thanks, Kathy, for dropping the application into the chat. Okay, so Adrian is prompting you, Anita, maybe to you might want to talk about the responsibilities that QCC faculty have in addition to teaching.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a pretty big teaching load. We teach 5 courses. So for the science faculty, it's 3 lectures and 2 labs. And then on top of that, we have college service, which we have to do, which could be, you could be a part of like learning council or some sort of pedagogy. You could be the advisor for a club. You know, there's numerous opportunities for college service. Your first year of teaching, you kind of have like, I can't remember, it's a 1 semester, 1 year kind of like grace period where you don't have to be, but they kind of expose you to all the different options you have to fulfill college service requirements. On top of that, we have to do advising. So each semester you'll get 18 advisees and you do have to help them with class registration. And so this is something that's really different than advising at like a place like WPI. So, you know, I used to look at the catalog, figure out what I needed to do, register for my classes, and then have like a 5-minute conversation with my advisor, like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And he'd be like, yeah, cool. This is not like that at all. So some students will come to you and say like, I need to register for the fall. And that's it, there's silence. And you're just like, oh, okay. So you have to run their degree audit and then figure out like what classes they've taken, what classes they need for their major. And then, and you have to sit there and actually do everything. Like you'll say, okay, well, I think how many classes do you want to take? I want to take 4. Okay, well, and then you have to go through and you have to actually pick like to the point where you're like, okay, there's this section of English 101. What times are good for you? Do you want to do evenings? Do you want to do online? Do you want to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Do you want to do Tuesday, Thursday? And you have to sit there and make their whole schedule and hand pick those classes with them one by one and email them their schedule. So it's very different than advising at maybe a place like WPI. There's a lot. They'll come to you and just be like, oh, I want to change majors. Like what classes would I need to take? How much time would I lose? So, you know, you run what if degree audits with them. So advising is very intrusive, very big time commitment. And then we also have department and division meetings once a month. So, you know, we have a meeting as like the School of Math and Science, and then I'm part of the science department. So then the science department has its own 1 hour meeting after that. So it's a lot, you know, the teaching load is so high. Like I said, you don't have TAs, so you have no help. You are on your own for grading, and you are on your own for lecture prep, lab prep. It's a lot. One of the questions was, do you do research as a community college instructor? No, we don't do research. So we're all teaching focused. Everything is teaching focused. We, you know, our lives are teaching. That's one of the reasons that the load is so high, is we don't do research. Some of us have like side research projects that we like to do with students. So for example, this summer I'm working with 2 students to do an environmental science research project. They're working with the city of Worcester to do cyanobacteria monitoring. And I'm, you know, just helping them, you know, kind of overseeing the project so they can put a presentation on. But, you know, we don't have time to do research, and we're not paid to do research. Someone asked, could research on teaching and learning be performed? I'm not sknow if I understand the question.
Like educational research, you know, is testing out different teaching strategies, you know, maybe doing retrospective studies, comparing, you know, you introduce a new style, maybe a flipped classroom or something, and then what's the outcomes and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's something I mean, if you want to do something like that, so we do have a program called Resident and Scholar, which is it's like I think you get a 1-year position. It's a 1-year position, and you get a course release for that. So they'll reduce your teaching load. And then if you were to do a research project like that, you could. Otherwise, it's kind of like, you know, you're trying it out on your own and you're saying it was a success or it wasn't a success. But yeah, if you want to do a research project, you have a couple of options. Number one, you could apply for that resident and scholar position. There's one chosen for each academic year. Number two, we do get sabbatical every 7 years, just like a normal professor does, right? So during sabbatical, you could do a research project in pedagogy if that's what you wanted to do. And then also for college service, you know, you could decide to do education research, right? Where you look into the possibility of flipping a classroom, and you do that with your own classroom and you collect the data, or you convince the colleagues in your department maybe to try it as well, right? So you could do it as part of college service as well. So those are kind of the 3 avenues you could go to get that done. And yes, QCC does have an IRB. Absolutely, we do.
Any other questions from attendees? Anyone considering applying for the program but wants to know a little bit more information first? Or okay, so I see there's a question in the chat about, do you need to be a U.S. citizen to become a fellow? So the NSF funding that we have can only support U.S. citizens in terms of the stipend, but it doesn't mean that we can't have fellows that are not U.S. citizens that we could support maybe through other means. So I would definitely encourage you to apply, and then, you know, we can see what the resources we have. There's opportunities, you know, for individuals to participate in sort of elements of our program, perhaps without necessarily being supported by the fellowship.
I'll answer. There's a question in the chat that asked me if I felt my experience in consulting and industry helped me in my teaching career. Absolutely, I think it did. I think that the community college students, you know, first of all, they're disadvantaged in the sense that a lot of times they get overlooked for internships and things like that because they're competing with students that are coming from like UMass Amherst or WPI. And so they don't get as much contact time with people who have actually been in industry and to discuss their experiences and things like that. So having had that experience, it's been very, very valuable for me to bring that to the classroom, especially when I teach a subject like physics. You know, I think that sometimes when it's taught by a physicist, they'll be like, oh, well, you know, you're kind of in that like physics brain, and you're not necessarily applying it practically, right? Whereas I take the problems and I show them, like when we're doing fluid mechanics, like this is where I used hydrostatic pressure, right? And I show them the different places that I actually applied it in projects that I did. So I do think it's huge. They ask me a lot of questions. And then for the women specifically in my class, I think it's really nice for them to be able to see that I was in industry in a very male dominated field, and that to a very white male dominated field. And so I'm able to help them with that experience as well. And also I will add that, we get the summers off. So if you want to teach summer sessions, you can, but it's not contractually required at all. And so before I had my son, I didn't teach in the summer, but what I did used to do was work in engineering in the summer. So it's like, I was able to go not like lose that part of myself, so to speak. So a couple of summers I actually worked for my town as part of the Conservation Commission. And then I spent one summer working at the Upper Blackstone wastewater treatment plant, piloting a chemical there to deal with their nitrogen and phosphorus issues. So I got to still do engineering in the summers when I wanted to. So I would choose not to teach, but I would choose to go do something like that. So I could bring those experiences back too. And then network, right? And so like my students in my environmental class, every semester before COVID, we used to go to the wastewater plant and I used to run tours there. And because I know everybody there, right? So it's really valuable to have that industry connection. It's definitely been very helpful.
Thank you. There was a question about a letter of recommendation that's not required for the application. And then I see Adrian asked a question about opportunities as an adjunct versus full-time.
Yeah, so I'll hit Adrian's question and then I'll hit Jonathan's question about diversity. Yeah, so full-time positions at the community college don't open up nearly as much as adjunct faculty positions. So the majority of our faculty members actually is adjunct faculty members. Full-time positions can be harder to find a posting for. You kind of just have to stalk it, and when it comes up, you apply, but they're very competitive. So we get many applicants that will apply for the full-time position. Adjunct faculty member is a great option to kind of get your feet wet in teaching, especially if you're still unsure of whether you want to be in industry or whether you want to teach. So one option is you go into industry, but you teach one course as an adjunct in the evenings. And so you get to kind of see what is it like teaching, what kind of student populations do we have, and what's involved. Of course, being an adjunct comes with its own challenges. You're not on campus all the time. You might not have as much time. Like, for example, if you're coming from your day job, you don't have time to go to the lab and tinker around and set up your experiment, make sure everything works, right? You just come in and you're on. But it is a great way to see if you like the job, and it's a great way to kind of segue into a full-time position while you're waiting for one to open up. There are some people that are just full-time adjuncts, so they have a full adjunct load, and they teach all adjunct courses. So if you are an adjunct faculty member, you are not required to do advising. You are not required to hold office hours. You are not required to do the department division meetings. So, you teach your course and that's your only requirement. So, I think there can be advantages and disadvantages to both. And then Jonathan asked, what is the current faculty diversity environment at QCC, and has bringing in more diverse faculty improved on the student experience at QCC? Yeah, our faculty is not as diverse as our student body. And there are some schools and some departments that are doing better than others. So, the physics department, we're very proud. It's a 3-person department, but all 3 are females and all 3 are women of color, right? So that's really unusual for a subject like physics. I think the more diversity we have, and that's many different types of diversity, the better, because QCC is just so diverse. And I think the students, I think we all like to see somebody that we can look up to, or somebody that's similar to us, that makes us think, yeah, I can do this. If this person can do this, I can do this. And being able to relate to experiences. And I think the more of that, the better. And so I think that's one of these initiatives. That's what this initiative in some way is all about, right? Is to help with that, to help our students. Absolutely.
One thing I will mention, and maybe Adrian or Nita can also chime in on this as well, is I think often people think when they think faculty, they think, well, you have to have a PhD to do that. And so, maybe if I'm getting a master's, this wouldn't be applicable to me. But it's different in community colleges where there's predominantly individuals have master's degrees. I don't know if Anita or Adrian, if you want to weigh in or comment beyond that.
Yeah, you need a master's degree to teach. That is the requirement. We do have faculty members that have PhDs. We do have faculty members that pursue PhDs while they're full-time faculty members, and we have people like myself that I'm not pursuing a PhD, right? I have a master's and I'm good with that. But yeah, that is what is required. A PhD can sometimes be a double-edged sword when you're in the interview process, because a lot of times the assumption is by the interview committee that if you have a doctorate that you may not choose to stay at the community college, right? That you're using it more like a stepping stone, and then you plan to leave to go to Worcester State or another 4-year that might suit you better. So in some ways that can be a disadvantage, but certainly we do have full-time faculty members that do have PhDs.
And one thing I would add is we do make exceptions and hire people with bachelor's degrees who have significant industry experience for our career and technical programs. So a program like advanced manufacturing and some of the classes that roll into that major, where students are not likely, it's not built as a transfer program, it's a work program after you complete your associates. In those situations, if a person has industry experience and talent in a given subject, there can be exceptions made for them to be able to teach. Because honestly, we need them. We need people who have been in industry, who are able to communicate and support students who are looking to do career and technical programs and graduate and move right into industry with an associate's or even a certificate. So that may not fit you because all of you are grad students, but I want you to be aware of it. And, in your daily life, as you meet people and you interact with people, if you see someone who's good, you could encourage them that there could be opportunities for them in those particular arenas to teach.
Rory, can I ask a question that came up in the chat that got accidentally directed to me? And the question has to do with whether other community colleges could be engaged in this programs, and whether the connection could be made with another community college as well. And I think that the answer at the moment is that we're planning to have the teaching aspect and the teaching training aspects take place at QCC right now. And that's our goal, particularly because we're all in Worcester. We're focusing on the training being at QCC, but that's not to say that if we have somebody who trains through this program and then goes and gets a job at one of the other community colleges, that to us is a win. That's what we're hoping for. So this is not training you to be a faculty member only at QCC, but getting you into the idea of, is this kind of teaching at a community college something for me? And what can you get a little bit of experience through this program so that you're ready to do that teaching and you're not walking into a classroom totally cold?
Thank you. yeah, that's definitely right on. And I would also add, I think that, you know, this is the first year of the program. And, you know, we might expand a little bit beyond, you know, our immediate region as well, as time goes along. But for this first year, it's, you know, like Darren said, we're focusing on the sort of immediate Worcester area, but.
Yeah, the intention is to grow our region, you know, and to spread out. So that's our goal. So we want to start small and accumulate lessons learned and be able to refine our model, and then invite, you know, broaden it and invite other institutions to participate.
One other thing I should mention, because the question did come up about letters of recommendation, and while we're not requiring that, I will say that if you are particularly a PhD student or a postdoc, but, you know, also if you're a master's student that's doing research, it would be good to get the support of your advisor to do this program. You know, having myself been an adjunct while I was a postdoc, you know, it might take up some time that you're not anticipating, or just, you know, if you are traveling and, you know, it's one day you're going to go to shadow the teacher, your mentor during their class session or something. You know, you want to be transparent with your advisor. I mean, the time commitment is not extensive, so you know, I wouldn't anticipate that being a huge barrier. But I think letting them know about this is important, and you might be surprised at the support that they would have for you about this. And it may also tie into things like broadening impacts that they have on, let's say, NSF grants or other, you know, activities they might be able to tie that into as well. Well, we have 2 minutes left. Any final questions before we wrap up the session?
I have a question on eligibility. I'm a master's student. I'm scheduled to graduate this summer. So I'm wondering if I would be eligible for next year, or if it's only for current students.
I mean, I don't think that's a barrier. Kathy, do you have a different perspective, or?
Yeah, we didn't think of this. So not sure right now, because it is supposed to be for grad students and postdocs. Maybe we should get back to you.
And
I
Aaron, you can also check Mass Academy, see if they've posted for the visiting scholar position. I mean, I'll tell you, that was best thing I ever did. It was wonderful.
And Aaron, I would say if this program is of interest to you, I would apply. The application itself is not that extensive. You know, if it turns out that we would not be able to, you know, consider you for the program, you know, there might be other things that we can connect you with as well. And other, you know, we were kind of thinking about this, that there's going to be opportunities for those not selected to also sort of participate in and get some of the benefits of the program as well.
That makes sense. Sounds good.
Well, we're at 5 o'clock. If you have a question, please raise it now.
Rory, is it, there are opportunities for these questions also to be directed to us digitally later. So we hope that if during time afterwards, if you come up with a question that you can forward, and that those, am I correct that those contacts were made available with the flyer?
I think so, but I'm just going to drop my email into the to the chat too.
Well, and you're sending out the slides and recording links, so you can do it then.
And there's some contact information on the web page that we have.
All right, well, thank you everyone for attending. Really appreciate the interest in the program. It's great to see people from across a few different schools. Have a great rest of your day. Enjoy the sunny but slightly cold weather. And we look forward to reading your applications.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.